Welcome to Dark Horizon Creations. This time we're taking a look at the Star Wars Epic World of Action Force Strike X-Wing by Hasbro. Now, if you hadn't already, please follow, like, and subscribe to my social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget to hit that bell icon so you get a notification of when I post new content. Alright, so tonight we're taking a look at the Star Wars Epic World of Action Force Strike X-Wing. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Epic World of Action from Star Wars, this is a fairly new line released by Hasbro, and it's marketed for younger collectors. Now, my initial impression of this toy is that it looks really nice. It's roughly the same scale as the 1995 Kenner Power of the Force X-Wing fighter. However, it is a completely different mold, designed to incorporate the play features of the toy. So, taking a look at the packaging, you've got your open window display box. I am not a fan of this type of packaging. Companies like Hasbro, Mattel, and others have reverted to this type of packaging as a cost-saving measure. Upper left, you got your Star Wars banner. Down at the bottom left, you got your Epic World of Action logo. You can see some artwork of the toy, and of course the action figure and vehicle prominently displayed inside of the packaging. On the back of the packaging, you've got your obligatory product shots of the X-Wing fighter. 5 different inset photos showing some of the play features of the vehicle and the action figure. Alright, so here we have the Force Strike X-Wing outside of the packaging, fully assembled. Now, before we begin, I do want to talk about everything that is included. You get the X-Wing 2 proton torpedo projectiles, the Luke Skywalker action figure, his DL-44 blaster pistol. You also get a brief instruction sheet that shows you how to assemble everything. Alright, so to begin, I want to talk about this action figure because this is a massive improvement over the old 5 POA figures that I grew up with in the Power of the Force line. Let's take a look at the detail. Very minimal there. Head sculpt. Detailing there on the chest box. Single paint app in gray. No paint applications for the switches or hose or any of that stuff. Molded in code cylinders there. He's got a port on his back on the vest. I'm not sure what that's for. What the vest is. Not colored. And if you take a look under here, you can see the head sculpt is mostly hollow. It's on a ball joint. You guys can see that there. Incredible range of motion of this figure. Forward and lateral shoulder, bicep rotation, single jointed elbow rotation. Forward and lateral movement at the thigh, lower leg rotation, single jointed knee. So really good articulation for these figures. I'm really impressed with that. That says a lot for this line. Luke does include his blaster pistol. Really nicely designed. You can see it's got the electroscope there on the side, targeting scope. Really decent mold for just a basic weapon for him. I wish that he included a holster for it, but just with the limited articulation that you've got, you can get him into some decent action poses. And I don't have a display base for him to go on, but he does have ports on the bottom of his boots where you can attach him to a display base. And there you go. Alright, now that we've talked about the action figure, let's talk about this vehicle. So to begin, I want to talk about the appearance. I think it looks really good. There's a lot of molded detail on this X-Wing, including the panel lines, as you guys can see there. A lot of nice molded detail. All right, so let's talk about the top of the X-Wing, the dorsal section. It looks really nice. There's a lot of nice molded detail, nice paint applications. They used the correct tint of blue-gray for the canopy frame, red paint applications for the squadron markings, red paint applications for the tick marks. Now, if you don't know anything about the tick marks, they represent the ship number within a squadron. Typically, there's 10 to 12 ships in a squadron, so 5 solid lines would represent red 5. If there's a dash in between the tick marks, it doubles the number. All right, so let's take a look at the ventral side of the X-Wing. You guys can see the molded in launcher at the front, just under the housing for the sensor array. It's got a single forward landing strut that will fold up. You can see the molded in hatch for the cargo compartment, no aft landing gear, and both the dorsal and ventral strike foils have this port molded into them, I guess, for some sort of accessories, accessory weapons to plug into. All right, let's talk about the dimensions of the X-Wing. Take a measure out, and it's right at 14 inches in length. And just about 14 inches wide. Okay, so let's take a look at the play features on the X-Wing. First and foremost, you can see the TAM and back laser cannons there on the strike foils, and they've got the molded in blast effects. I don't like this, and I can see there's a molded in plastic tip underneath here. I'm gonna look for some way to remove these. Maybe superheat this and see if it'll pop off so that I can remove that from there. Because when I do toy photography, I use apps on my phone to put the blast effects in, but still cool feature for kids to play with. Underneath the ship, you've got the projectile launcher there, and they load in like this, and then you've got this button on the top that you can depress to fire the projectile. Moving back, you've got the canopy. Open and close really secure. You can see the molded in cockpit there. A lot of nice molded detail. Those of you who like to customize, you can repaint that. A lot of nice molded detail in the ejection seat there. No flight stick or anything. You can take Skywalker action figure, bend his arms, and you'll see how he fits in the cockpit. Like so. So that looks really cool. Got R2-D2 back here. It's just a molded in dome, but it does spin. Some nice detailing there. They didn't paint in all the details, but it's not completely bare either. This is something that I have no idea what it's supposed to be, but on the top engines on strike foils, it's got this slider. It slides this molded blue crap out of the engine. I guess that's supposed to be like reverse thrust or something. Really not sure. Don't like that at all. And I'm gonna try to figure out a way to remove that. See the molded in engines on the back. Now, strike foils do open, but this is really difficult to do without strike foils popping off. And I don't know why that is, but they do not want to Okay, there we go. It did not want to open and close properly earlier. Okay, so I opened the strike foils and I put it on top of a cup that I've got. And you can see how that looks. That's not bad. That doesn't look bad. Overall, this isn't a bad toy, particularly at the price point of $29.99, whereas the vintage collection ships would retail for $99.99. So there you have the Star Wars Epic World of Action Force Strike X-Wing by Hasbro.